Great, thanks for joining us, Mo. So hopefully, obviously you've been interviewed a lot. Your success, I think, speaks for itself, both pre and post, and currently with Hyrox. But what would interest me, and I haven't seen anybody else ask this question so far, is obviously having won Olympic medals, been part of an Olympic team, trained as an Olympic athlete. How did that set you up, do you think, for the success that you've now achieved? And specifically in terms of the mindset that gave you to drive the success of Hyrox with your co-founder?
Well, I do think that there are a lot of call it mindset things that are very comparable from the competitive sports world and the business world. When it just comes to resilience, to a certain degree of, let's call it being open to risk, things to risk, to take some risks in situations where maybe others wouldn't, leadership perspectives, hierarchy, understanding, feedback culture. So I think there's a certain mindset, if you want to call it that, that was definitely beneficial coming from super high professional sports, and then also the fact that I was kind of in a leadership role in those teams most of the time throughout my career. Yeah, I do think that helped a lot, especially when it comes to, founding a company. There are so many ups and downs, and if you start questioning every step you take, then you will not be successful. So you got to get out there, do things, and try and error and make it better, and be happy to get the feedback if things don't work. Don't be too stubborn with a certain route you might have taken for various reasons, but if it doesn't work, then switch and do something else. And I think there are quite a few similarities comparing to the sports world. So yeah, I do think that helped me a lot. And as you said, I've been interviewed a lot, and sometimes I say that my professional sports career was my Harvard University studies. You know what I mean? So while others have to, or want to, or are able, or have the luck to learn in facilities or in universities like the Ivy League universities globally seen, I didn't obviously have the chance to do that, but what I experienced in the professional sports world, I think that was my 3-year Harvard bachelor, for many reasons, social skills, and the other things I was just mentioning, things that I basically learned on the job, if you want. So yeah, I don't want to miss that part.
Excellent. And then obviously you went on after that to work for a sports marketing agency. Do you feel that having worked for it was quite a large corporate organization, do you think that was a big benefit to you, getting that insight, and again, I guess continuing your MBA, as it were, and learning from other people in terms of then being able to set up a successful business? Or do you think that in hindsight, maybe you should have gone straight into setting up your own business first?
No, well, this goes along with what I said earlier, that I actually don't regret any decision ever. I don't think it makes sense. Even the ones that if I could go back, I maybe would do things differently. I don't know, but it's a different thing, whether you get to do something again and you choose differently, or you're regretting what you chose back then. And I never regretted any of those decisions. It was definitely not something where I would say it's part of the way. And I would even say that to a certain extent, it's more like I learned a lot in these corporate structures how I don't want to do things also. So which is also very beneficial, right? So otherwise you never know. And I think that's also how I feel about overall learning. It's not only like, adding things up to your skill set. It's also understanding what is the stuff that you don't want to add to your skill set. And that's quite controversial to your actual idea of how you want to run things. overall, I think I did learn a lot still in regards to how does like a company work and function, intercompany exchange commercially, but also from a communication perspective. And yeah, so more structural things, I think, that I just picked up, because where do you want to learn those? Because usually that's not stuff they teach you in university.
No. So obviously, you've done this, you've been successful both commercially and as a sports person, decided to set up Hyrox. What was the kind of light bulb moment for you when you realized that, you wanted to move out of corporate and pursue your own path? And what led you down the path that, obviously that you're now successfully on?
Yeah, that was not directly like kind of the, oh, let's do this now. It was more like the time in the agency came to an end. Both sides agree. I think they actually, we never really spoke about it because there was quite a fluent transition, and I was absolutely happy with that. But I think they actually wanted to fire me. So there was we just found a smart way to not really make it look like that. And I was very happy with the decision. So that we agreed on. And then yeah, I just started was looking for the new thing, and I found with Christian, my partner now, and Michael, the third founding partner back in the days, I think we just found us in that in that constellation, and then we picked it up from there. But it was not a like, I don't know, information based an analytical decision of this is the right path for the next 10 years. That was really not the thing.
It was more of an emotional decision than a data driven one, you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And how did you come up with the name?
The name Hyrox?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of gin and tonic. And no, really, it's like we were fascinated by the term rocks. We liked that at the beginning, before we had our current global energy partner. We had a name for, it's still called the Rock Zone, right? And in the middle of where the workouts are happening, and we wanted to call our athletes at the beginning. We had a name for them that is now a competitor brand to our global energy partner, so we're not using that term anymore. But when we started, we felt like it could be a cool name for everybody who finishes the Hyrox, just like the logic of Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
Where you have that, and then we wanted to call our athletes like that term that I'm not using. So yeah, we were fascinated by the word rocks. And so in the end, it really ended up by us trying to figure out the best combinations on from a letter, the best matching letters to the word rocks. Yeah. We were going through all the letters of the alphabet and just trying. We knew the term couldn't be too long. Yeah. We needed at least 2 more letters, because anything added to rocks with just 1 letter sounded strange. So yeah, and I think H and Y are a good combination. We're really happy with the name. But that's the magic behind the not to say.
So it was kind of an organic decision making, rather than again going out there and looking for something data wise to kind of make that decision.
No, absolutely not. I'm pretty sure I think we never officially had. I'm pretty sure it was my idea, but we don't fight about it.
So obviously, there were obviously other things going on. We had CrossFit. We had obviously, a lot of the OCR races that were kind of quite big, certainly pre-pandemic. Obviously, it's still going now. Was there anything that you looked, and obviously you've mentioned Ironman, was there any other kind of mass participation event that really kind of caught your attention and thought there's something kind of missing here where we can add something to it? Or was it more, you identified, if I was going to do something, this is what I'd want it to be, and that's how you created what you've now done?
No, it was more, a little bit of both. The reality is, and I've been saying this really a lot, and it's 100% the truth. Christian had this overall idea in his head of this race, as it is right now, not the exact race type and everything, but just the idea of combining running with functional fitness workouts as a race. And the more we started talking about it and developing the concept, the more we realized that we might have hit a sweet spot, because nothing was existing in this world while many people were running into the gyms, working out there, especially also women, without an actual sportive purpose. So because they went there because they just went there to be fit or good looking or healthy or whatever, but not from a sports angle. And so yeah, we felt like that's a void in the world of sports, and that's why also we don't compare us to any of the other sports that you mentioned, or training methodologies or whatever, because it's easy, and people want to put things into buckets all the time because it's just easier for the brain to digest it and to understand it. But it's in the end not the right thing, because Hyrox is as close to obstacle racing or triathlon or marathon or Ironman or CrossFit as 200-meter running is to a marathon run. It's running, and you have to use shoes and put your feet in front of each other, but it's completely different skill set that you need, right? And this is the same. I mean, I'm not saying that a good sprinter might not also be able to be a decent marathon runner. Absolutely. Why not? And that's the same with our sport. A good obstacle racer is maybe a really good Hyrox athlete, and vice versa. But it's a completely different sport and a new kind of vertical in the world of sports. And you see that the top athletes globally right now, there's a former swimmer who's the current world champion. There's a former, or maybe whatever, obstacle racer kind of guy, CrossFit, whatever, who is the shiny big star from America. Then there is a former triathlete who is one of the top 5 athletes. So you have different backgrounds. You have people with different, kind of skill sets, but they have to bring it together and train for this particular sport. So, and then, sorry, but the second part in regards to your question is, we did look at all sports in the world, and we tried to pick the best things from all sports and combine it into our product. So, for example, the World Championship qualification logic is from Ironman, if you want. Then the movements, obviously, we didn't invent the wall ball or the lunge. So we took the best out of the functional fitness world and took the most generic movements, like, body weight movements, if you want, no technical things. So also there, we took a lot in that sense from CrossFit, because we didn't take a lot of things that they do, because we think they're not mass participation relevant. And we don't mean that in a bad way. We're just saying that's why we don't use, I don't know, cleans or any movements that are more technical. So we did the same thing. Then we called our elite series, we called it the majors, which we took from golf, because we like the term. And so we did look at many sports in the world and try to really not reinvent the wheel, if you want, with every decision that we make, but take the best things that are already existing, put them all together.
And do you think that the fact there was 3 of you originally, did you have different skill sets? And do you think that was part of the success, that having like a founding team rather than an individual is very important and has played an important role in the success? Or do you think that somebody, can do it all on their own?
Yeah, I think that's a very individual evaluation in every case. I wouldn't ever say this is how you should found companies. What I can say for our particular case is that I think we have completely different skill sets, absolutely. But then also everybody had to earn their spot kind of in our team structure on the founders level. So there are different personalities and different people with different, like, personality is the right word. So it took some time for everyone to basically find their spot and be 100% happy in the role that we put ourselves in. And I think that's quite normal, because at the beginning you do everything and then you realize I'm actually not so good at this and I'm better at that. So we're coming back to the feedback and not being stubborn and being open to, constructively change paths. And we did that quite a lot. So I think it totally depends. There are some founders in some companies, and especially with maybe more the digital world, where you don't have to be in 20 places at the same time, where that could also make sense, founding alone. But in our case, I think it was a good situation.
And in terms of, what was the tipping point? At what point did you guys, did you kind of feel this is going to be as big as it's, it's still growing, but as big as it now is? And, was it something that you felt internally, or was it something external that kind of made you feel we've got something amazing here and this is just going to grow?
No, I think, look, of course, we always believed it could be this big. And we, hope is not the right word, but because we actually believed it, we kept telling everyone all the time. Did we believe that it would become so big so fast, especially after COVID? No. We're outperforming our top business plan scenario by high percentage, double digits. And everybody who ever wrote a business plan knows that that's quite unique, that you're outperforming your uppercase. So that's cool. But I think the tipping point, if you're asking me, was really, after COVID, when literally we opened events and suddenly we were selling, we were getting back from the 2,000 ticket sales that we had, but suddenly there was a sold out event. I couldn't even tell you where the first one was, but at the moment we realized, wow, something's happening. There's more traffic, people are buying tickets, events are getting sold out. That was like kind of the time. So it's not a long time ago, to be honest. It was like maybe end of 22, kind of, when we realized, oh my God, this is now people apparently understand what we're trying to tell them.
And do you think social media has been really important? Do you think, had you tried to have done this 10, 15 years ago, would it have been a lot more difficult? And has social media played a big role in kind of obviously getting that message out there and getting that buzz created? Or do you think it's something that would have happened? And obviously we can't look back, but just from a feeling, do you think that's played a big role in the success?
Well, I think, if you ask, I think 15 years ago, it would have been easier, because back then there was one social media platform, and if you were big there, then everybody in the world knew what you were doing. 25 years ago, I think the challenge would have been a little bit harder to get the message out there. But then also back then, if you were good in local marketing and especially TV marketing, there was basically just a 2-channel consumption of media by people, right? So we watched TV and read the newspaper. So I feel even then, I very much believe that a very good product will, in most of the cases, be successful regardless of the moment when you implement it. There's just a small thing about timing, as we call it. Also has to do with luck, where you can say, okay, sometimes you hear this product was too early, this was not yet there. But I feel that's more for the digital world, because I think for the actual world out there where we put Hyrox, I think that's something that would have always worked, with maybe more difficulties in regards to spreading the message, but maybe not, because as I just said, you have the money we spent overall on marketing. We could have bought quite a good slot on a in global TV advertisement, you know, and then suddenly everybody knows about you because back then everybody was watching TV. But to answer your question, did social media help? Absolutely. That was a big driver. It's nowadays one of the easiest way and best ways to really get to our target audience. Our average athlete is 35 and 54% male. So literally like the main target audience that is consuming media, which is difficult, obviously, because they are consuming a lot of media, and so trying to reach them is not cheap and also not easy. But we really put our money down on investing into community. So all our social channels are mainly community channels. We're not salesy on these channels. We're not trying to sell the tickets through social. Yes, we do announce new events and we say this is happening, but you would hopefully, because then I have to talk to the people, but you would hardly find any like social posts where someone would say 25% discount on buy now, last chance. I don't know. We inform about a price jump or something like that, but we're trying to keep it very far away from the sales kind of lot.
So on that subject of social media, is that something you're doing in-house, or are you working with agencies? What's your kind of thought on that?
No, we build everything organically. We have all our channels in our own hand. We do have in some markets some agency support in regards to writing captions or some marketing agencies supporting us with asset creation, stuff like that. But the control is entirely with us.
Okay. And is there any market that has caught you by surprise at the speed of adoption?
Many, to be honest. I mean, Canada, it's the first ever event in Canada, which is going to happen in actually a couple of weeks, I believe, in Toronto, sold out 2 days. So I was, I'm not surprised is maybe not the right word, but I was, let's say, in a way I was positively surprised that we sold out 2 days at the first ever event in Toronto. The same counts for Melbourne, just because it's so far away that I was also to a certain degree, surprised when I realized we're selling out 2 days in Melbourne on the other end of the world. So there were a few markets where I was kind of surprised that they picked it up so quickly.
And what has been the biggest logistic challenge? Obviously, you've gone global very quickly. Obviously, these events require a lot of space. They require a lot of manpower, a lot of equipment. How have you managed the logistics of that? Have you got like local partners? Do you fly out ahead of it? Do you have a crack team, like an A team that fly out and kind of make it happen? Or do you rely on local partners for that?
No, we have, I think, 9 global roadshows. So it's not one team, or it's a lot of teams, a lot of people that are basically, driving trucks, getting the trucks from A to B, and it's a very sophisticated event logic. All these different roadshows travel from event to event to service basically all our 82 events this season, I think it is. So many people, logistic companies, AV companies, responsible for the technical setup, and so on and so forth. So it's a big organization now.
And what's been the biggest challenge with the speed of the growth? Has it been trying to keep pace? Has it been recruiting the right people?
Everything. I mean, I think the biggest challenge is probably keeping up with the internal structures. So it's just a big difference if you're 20 people and everybody's doing basically everything, or you're 100 people and now suddenly you have hierarchies, different structures, management levels, responsibilities, and different things to tackle. So I think actually the internal structures are one of the biggest challenges, which is always a good thing as long as the product is working. Yeah. Obviously, getting more complicated when that's not the case.
So how is your typical day changed from 3-4 years ago to today? Are you more less hands-on, or are you still very hands-on?
Well, I'm less at events, so you could call that less hands-on. More focused on like the overall topics, especially with our medialization things. In my regards, now I look after all comms and everything that has to do with marketing. So of course, in the first year, I would travel to 11. We had 11 events in Europe. I would travel to 11 events and help from A to Z, from Thursday to Sunday. So fortunately, I don't have to do that all the time now anymore. But no, my daily job is being in the office for the better part of the day and trying to make Hyrox better every day.
And in terms of so far, what's been the most fulfilling part of this journey from an entrepreneurial kind of point of view? Has it been the success itself, or has there been sort of certain aspects of it that have really kept you motivated and made it all very worthwhile for you?
Well, it's hard. I think the whole, from the meta kind of bigger picture behind the whole thing, I think that will kick in probably in 15 years or so. Right now, you're so in the process that there's no time, but also not really the view where, I mean, of course, when we stood at the World Championships in Nice this year and we saw we had our opening speech and everything, then sometimes you're also pinching yourself and you're like, okay, wow, this is somehow cool. But in the daily business, that's not something you think about, or I think about a lot. So hopefully in some years we will look back at it or on it and say quite cool stuff that we created. At the moment, it's the most rewarding thing is honestly just seeing that it's prosperous and that we have a lot of people that are happy to work for us and with us, that we have hundreds, thousands of athletes now racing in a sport that we invented. So that every single weekend, every event is a reward. Excellent.
And then in terms of maintaining your own fitness, have you been able to do that, or are you spending so much time kind of getting everybody else fit that you haven't got time for your own?
No, that's actually the good thing about not only the sport of Hyrox, but also I consider myself the perfect example of what Hyrox can do for one of our main audiences. We call that the former athlete, literally. Mainly an audience that is very big in the US, as people finish college and usually don't really do sports after, at least not officially in a competitive mode. And I'm the same. I think Hyrox gave me I hated going to the gym. I hated going for a run, because I wanted to do my sport. And that was just something I had to do in order to be fit to do my sport. And now I consider Hyrox my sport to a certain degree. And suddenly you see me, I don't know, running 3 times a week in the morning or going to the gym the other 2 times. And I found a rhythm that I do sports every morning. So I'm probably not I can't say that loud, but I don't think I was ever much fitter. Let's put it that way.
Okay, fantastic. So in terms of the future, is there any kind of, is there a big plan? Is there do you see any acquisition, like buying up other events? Do you see spreading into more territories? Do you see licensing? I think you've started doing some licensing deals. And so on. What's the kind of future hold, do you think, for you and for Hyrox that you're able to share that isn't going to kind of breach any confidence, should we say?
No, I mean, to be honest, I don't even know what I'm going to do in January. So we're not big, and we're just doing what we're doing. So right now we're developing a new sport, and now we're delivering a season that just started with events every weekend in different parts in the world. So we focus very much on that, delivering the product as it is, trying to make it better, trying to look at all the things that we still need to adjust. We're not 100% happy yet. If from, in regards to your question, I think, I don't know. There are many opportunities out there. We will most definitely strive to, have Hyrox events in the top 150 capitals or major cities in the world. That's one of our aspirations. We would just want to make people go out there and challenge themselves in a race like Hyrox is. Are we going to acquire other races, companies, whatever? I don't know. At this point, I don't necessarily see a reason for it. We have enough to do with our product. But yeah, I think in the future, our goal is that Hyrox cracks the 1 million participants per season. And we are probably like a couple of years away from that, but that would be a very nice KPI that I would like to see.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting, I was reading the other day that Hyrox had saved F45, that they were in trouble. I don't think this is a secret. And then by launching your Hyrox workouts, it's reinvigorated their whole business. And I felt, isn't that an incredible achievement for you, that to have driven so much participation through another, albeit aligned kind of industry, that you're, not only are you getting people fitter, but also you're actually generating jobs and success for other people as well.
Yeah, look, I have not heard that headline yet, but if it's the case, I mean, we value very much our partnerships and especially our gym partnerships. I really believe that Hyrox is an additional product that works in every gym environment in the world. Many of our gyms are CrossFit boxes, for example, that also partner up with Hyrox because it just makes sense. People can train whatever they want, but it makes a lot of sense for them to then at one point challenge their skills in a Hyrox race. So I do think that we will grow very, very much in the global gym world. And if that services gym chains like F45, then I'm really happy about that because I think they have a brilliant business model. I think that what they do is very much buying into what Hyrox is trying to stand for. So I think it's a good match. There are many others out there, but if that helped, then Mark Wahlberg can give me a call.
So any tips for aspiring Hyrox athletes? How to get hold of tickets? I think that's almost an impossibility. But failing that, what would you say is have you identified any points of success that people, or methods of training, or that have really kind of elevated people to be successful with Hyrox versus another sport or another type of race?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that's obviously, also a big UK thing with that tickets are so rare now. We're trying to add more races to service that a little bit so that the ratio of people trying to get tickets and actually available tickets is a little bit lower. But then also we have a lot of tickets available still, and it's just not maybe so close to the UK. So yeah, that's the one thing. The other part, luckily nowadays we have a lot of experts that are much better in explaining that our entire Hyrox 365 world with all the affiliated gyms, but also personal trainers that have a Hyrox degree, if you did the training course, can explain that. My personal experience is that I think it's really important to just get out there and do it for once. And then usually what I see, even if people doing a double or whatever, they finish and then you're like, okay, now I got it. This is what I have to do. So it's very hard to just theoretically talk about it. The one thing from a theory perspective is probably that what's pretty unique about Hyrox is that it's running, but it's not only running. So people have to work on the transition of having a heavy leg workout and then going for a run. So I think changing your daily training a little bit to not just running 8K, but maybe running 2K, doing 50 lunges and running another 2K and seeing what that does to your legs and your body. I think that's the simplest trick to get things started. Just adjust your daily training a little bit to the challenges that Hyrox will provide for you.
Great. And then just kind of to sum up, is there any kind of top tips that you would share, with aspiring entrepreneurs as to the kind of the mindset that you've developed over your years, that you feel that you need in a general term to be successful?
Yeah, as I said, I think that just striving towards, if you believe in something, then I think you should really stay on that path without being completely blindfolded in regards to feedback, but don't question everything and every step on the way, because just because people might not believe it's the best way, it doesn't mean it isn't. But and that's that's thin ice, because then sometimes you need to adjust your own plan, and you can't also believe that your plan is the best forever. But yeah, I think if you have a certain resilience in regards to what you believe is good, and then just stick to it. And I think many people have good ideas, but maybe are not convinced enough to just go for it, and maybe hesitant to go for it. But in the end, yeah, there are so many quotes that I don't want to quote that are very good, and everybody knows them. But the truth is that you can only fail if you try, and if you don't try, then But as I said, I didn't want to quote them. So
we could just say you just got to go and make it happen. So
yeah.
I suppose, listen, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I wish you all the best with all the success and obviously future success that you've got. So yeah,
Appreciate it.
have a wonderful day.
Thank you.